So, hello, welcome to Tales of a Time Lord. In this video, I'll be giving you my top 10 Peter Davison stories for a first-time fan. So, this is my top 10 Peter Davison stories for a first-timer. As I've covered previously on this channel, I'll be doing some different stories later on for more versed fans, but this is like if you are completely new to the classic series and you wanted to try a bit of Peter Davison, this is where you go to. You can see my t-shirt for Resurrection of the Daleks. All this is very grossly prepared, honestly. So Peter Davison, I would say this is one to go for if you're sort of a fan of Matt Smith, less in sort of the silence, trends of law sort of thing, but this is it's a family-based show. You have a young doctor with an old soul. There's a bit of sci-fi and a little bit of an arc in there. But you've got like the team TARDIS, sort of like the Pond. So if you're into the Stephen Moffat era, the Matt Smith era, then I think Peter Davison is a strong place to go to. And also there's less of the gothic horror stuff going on. It's very much simple, straightforward, standalone stories that are just a bit of fun, a bit of sci-fi. There's a little bit of historical going on there. And also the duration is a bit shorter. There is 3 seasons of 7 stories. More on that later. But essentially 20 episodes, discounting the Twin Dilemma, which is the 6th Doctor story. And there are also 3 two-parters. There is a two-parter in each season, so if you're wanting something purely on duration rather than plot, then this is a great place to go to for a beginner. So here we go. My first choice is 4 to Doomsday. This is episode 2 of season 19. This is where we're just sort of getting to know the characters that we've been introduced to at the end of Tom Baker's era. The chemistry is just starting to gel together. There's a bit of almost like a New Earth sort of feeling, perhaps. The plot is intriguing. There's sci-fi elements in there. There's aliens in prosthetics, and there's an interesting, like, what is the plan sort of thing going on. It's the Doctor landing on a space station and trying to figure out what's going on there. There's a bit of mystery. I think it's particularly fun. It's got the action vibes that New Who begins to lean into. That sort of starts here, that action hero, young, charming Doctor. It's not always the most popular with classic fans, so I wouldn't expect everyone to enjoy this one, but this is one that for me, latched onto as a child. So that is my first suggestion for To Doomsday. My next suggestion is Mordrin Undead. Again, this is simply to try and get you into classic stories. I wouldn't say this is one to particularly follow because it's the first of a 3-parter. But if you want to just try out something that's a bit more in the middle of a season that you can try to get your teeth into, this is a strong one. It's got a few sci-fi elements and a bit of time travel, so if you want something slightly more complicated, something that you can really enjoy and get gripped into the storyline, then this is great. It has the Brigadier. It runs through 2 different time zones. There's a little bit of Time Lordy sci-fi stuff going on there and explanation of regenerations and stuff, but not enough to get bogged down and confusing. It is a companion introduction to Turlo, and as I say, it runs through a 3-story arc, but you could theoretically watch any of those 3 stories without any research. So I think this is just a good entry-level sort of what you can expect from the show, a little bit more complicated, but not so much that it's alienating. And I think of season 20, which I'm sort of avoiding because there's a lot of sequels and things that I think you need more research for, and I don't want to get involved in sequels of things, but I think of season 20, this is the most inviting to a new fan. So, Mordrin Undead. Next up, I have the 5 Doctors. This is one that I've seen on a lot of other people's lists for good reason. It's just a good introduction to 4 Doctors at the same time. Tom Baker through deleted scene material, but you got the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 5th Doctor. So this gives you a good introduction to them. It's not a strong story for either of them. It's not typical of any of their eras because it's an anniversary special. But if you want to meet Daleks, Cybermen, a bit of Gallifrey, like I say, various companions and Doctors meeting, then it's a good place to just get a well-rounded idea of the characters in each era. It's not a particularly typical story of each one, but it'll just give you an example of different areas you can explore. And it's not a particularly difficult plot to follow. It's very much something that a casual fan might watch on an anniversary, similar to Day of the Doctor. You don't need to get your brain into it too much, you just sit back and watch what happens. So, The Five Doctors. My next recommendation is Black Orchid. This is a two-part story in season 19, which means that it's essentially 45 minutes. It is 2 times 25 minutes. This is a very simple story. When I was a first-time fan, I wasn't a huge fan of this one because it is very simple. There's not a lot going on here, but it's a bit of a Agatha Christie murder mystery whodunit. But in, like I say, short form, it's only 2 parts. This is a bit of a actor's moment for Sarah Sutton's Nyssa. This is her biggest standalone story where she actually gets 2 parts and Sarah Sutton's Nyssa gets to be a focal character. As I say, the plot didn't really grip me as a child, but if you want something that is, like I say, nice and short, something that's not difficult to follow, you can just get used to the Fifth Doctor's era, get used to the characters and the chemistry within 45 minutes in this story. So if you've never watched anything Peter Davison before, or maybe even never watched anything classic before, it's just a good one to have in your little checklist to say, you know, for 45 minutes I'll get to know what sort of thing happens. So, Black Orchid. My next choice is The King's Demons. This is another 2-part story, and it is a historical, one of the only historicals in the 80s in fact, and it also features a real historical character. It has swords, jousting, horse races, various things like that. There is again a little bit of a plot, you have to figure out what's going on, who done it, and it is the introduction of the sort of semi-companion chameleon, which you don't really need to know about because he sort of got written out quite soon after this. But it is a little bit of fun, there's a bit of, like I say, sci-fi in there, a bit of history, and again, it's only a 2-parter, so if you want something that's perhaps a little bit more enjoyable, a bit more thrilling than Black Orchid, this has got a little bit more going on, but equally it's only 2 parts, so you can get it done in 40 minutes. And this is a bit more typical, I would say, of the Peter Davison era, so if you want to really know what this era is about on a more weekly basis, then The King's Demons is a good place to go to. My next choice is Kinder. Now this is a story where you're really going to want to get your teeth into it if you really want to know what the classics are about. It's sort of the writer putting down his mark. This is very much somebody who is interested in a topic and really put it together without any worry about what the BBC or the general audience might think. So this is like a pure, complex, spiritual idea. But I think it's one of the highlights of Peter Davison. It's one of his best produced stories, sort of like, if you think about Shooty Gatwood doing The Story in the Engine, Jodie Whittaker doing It Takes You Away, perhaps you might compare it to things like that. It is a story about, yeah, spiritualism, about the soul, about metaphors, and some very, very strong acting. Yeah, some real performances that let go of any inhibitions and embarrassment, and they just really let rip. It does have a sequel in the following season called Snake Dance, which is what I mean about season 20 being a season full of sequels. You could watch the pair together, and Snake Dance is certainly a more diluted, audience-friendly version of this plot. So if you don't like this, you might want to try Snake Dance as well. But I don't want to recommend Snake Dance on its own, because I don't think Snake Dance works standalone. It needs a sequel. So if you want to watch Kinder on its own, or you want to watch Kinder and Snake Dance to get 2 different types of the same plot. But I think this, I would say this should be on pretty much any Fifth Doctor list. This is an essential Fifth Doctor story. My next choice is The Visitation. This is, again, a historical. I don't believe there are any real-life historical characters in this, but it is set in the past and uses historical characters. This one has pteroleptals in it. science fiction, spacecraft, alien races. We also see the death of the sonic screwdriver, so if you want a little piece of history there, this is the last time you see the sonic screwdriver. There's not really a lot to say about the Visitation. It is very a simple plot. There's not a lot goes on, but when I was a kid trying to get into Peter Davison, this is one that I latched onto quite quickly. It's a 4-parter. There's not a lot to say other than, like I say, it's got aliens, historical characters, but it's just like a generally inoffensive. If you're struggling with Peter Davison, you might give this one a try, because I did, and it worked for me. My next choice is The Awakening. This is another historical story. This is the 2-parter of the final season, season 21. So if you want, again, short stories, this is another place to go to. And this has a mixture of historical reenactors in the present day acting out a period piece of a war, and they get tangled up in a sort of time distortion where the real war they're fighting comes through. It's got a bit of action adventure in there, again a little bit of a mystery as to what's going on, but if you're into historical wars or present day war reenaction, then this is a fun place to go to. It's just a nice little 45-minute piece, something a bit different, but it's also got a bit of action adventure in there that you might find appealing. My next choice is Frontios. This is a story that I find a little bit Marmite. When I first started, I struggled with it a lot, but I do find that everyone recommends it, and on my most recent rewatch, I did really get into it, and I did get to enjoy it, so maybe it's a story that you need a bit more backing to enjoy, I'm not sure. There's sort of I would say the Doctor's Daughter sort of vibe to this one. It's like a war whose history is sort of mythologized, and people have lost track of what they're fighting for. And there's a bit of a mystery when you get into finding out what is going on in the battle, what secrets and lies are being kept, what false histories are being told. And we also get a very, very scary monster, one of the scariest monsters of the classics possibly, the Tractators. If you ignore a bit of silly prosthetic and a little bit of silly makeup, they are very scary monsters. Again, it's one of those where I think every recommendation of Peter Davison I've seen has this story in there, so it would be remiss of me not to include it. And it is quite likely that you will enjoy this too. And my next recommendation is Earthshock. I would like to say that I've placed this at the bottom for a reason, because I do recommend this to new fans, but only if you've watched several of the stories, because this is quite a big twist, quite a big reveal multiple times, and I don't think you want to watch this the first story. You want to get a bit of background, possibly watch all of season 19 up till this point if you can. But I have recommended it because I think if you have done that, it's one of the probably the best stories of the classics. I won't tell you what the reasons are because that will spoil the story for you, but I think this is probably in the top 1 or 2 stories of Peter Davison and of the classics in general. It's one of those that everyone must see. So yeah, I would say watch the other 9 in this list if you're going to do this first, and ideally watch all of the stories from Peter Davison up to this point. But I would, yeah, absolutely recommend Earthshock. It is a phenomenal story, and if all else on this list has failed, I would say this is where you go to enjoy Peter Davison. If not, perhaps this era might not be for you, and that's perfectly fine to accept that. So yeah, that is my top 10 recommendations for Peter Davison for a first-time fan. Let me know your recommendations in the comments if you agree or disagree with my choices here. I'm currently nearing the end of my Colin Baker run-through. I'm just starting on Trial of a Time Lord. Ideally, I'll be bringing you plenty of videos on that soon. And once I get to that point, I will also only have 3 seasons of Sylvester McCoy, which equals 12 stories. So I will probably, towards the beginning of September, have completed my entire run. But phase 2 of this channel is coming. It is being prepared as I speak. So I'm looking forward to you finding out what I've got planned for the rest of the year and beyond. But yeah, I hope you enjoy these 5th Doctor stories. Let me know if any of this is helpful to you, and I will see you next time.